afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Women in Breakbulk session as part of Breakbulk Europe Connect 21. We're so delighted to have you all joining us here today on the days that we should have been together in Bremen for Breakbulk Europe, and really hope that you've been enjoying connecting, networking, and learning from your peers on the Breakbulk Europe Connect 21 platform this week. Before I hand over to our fantastic speakers, I just would quickly like to go over a couple of housekeeping points for this session. So firstly, this webinar will be available on demand after the session, as I think this is one of our most frequently asked questions, so you will be able to access the content at a later date. And our speakers will be joining a roundtable after this session, where they will be answering your questions and encouraging you to participate in an interactive discussion. So if you do have any questions for our speakers, please ask them in the Q&A tab, and we'll take those questions over to the roundtable after the session closes. So this session is going to look at how we can work to define a roadmap and practical steps to overcoming the barriers facing women in the industry. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I'd now like to hand over to Leslie Meredith, who is the Marketing and Media Director here at Breakbulk, as Leslie will be moderating this discussion. Over to you, Leslie.
Welcome to Connect 21. I'm your host, Leslie Meredith, and in this session, we'll be focusing on Women in Breakbulk, an initiative that we introduced back at Breakbulk Americas in 2019. Every Breakbulk event includes a session for women by women, and it's an opportunity to network, share experiences, and mentor women at various stages of their careers. So we have been working with the EU Maritime Women Organization, and this session today was built around some important research this group is doing in partnership with WISTA International. The research initiative was introduced earlier this year at our Breakbulk Middle East digital special, and we of course will pick it up at our first in-person event this fall in Houston at Breakbulk Americas. So I want to stress that this is a global research project for women wherever they work in the world, but today we'll be focusing on Europe. And our purpose over the next time period is to define the roadmap to overcoming barriers facing women in the industry. So I've got 4 female leaders here with me today, and I will introduce each of them, and I'll ask you to give us a little bit of your background after I say your name. So we'll start with Claudia Olmayer, President, WISTA Germany, Head of Section Class Systematics, Data and Operation Center for DNV. Claudia, hello, it's nice to see you again. Claudia participated in our Women in Breakbulk Europe last May.
Hello, Leslie. It's great to be back at the Breakbulk session, and hello to everyone who is joining us today. As just said, my name is Claudia Olmayer. I'm a naval architect, and I'm working since roughly 15 years in the maritime industry. I came across WISTA and Women in Shipping, say about 10 years ago, and it's a great pleasure to be part of WISTA and this initiative and having more women in the industry, just because there are so many qualified females out there. But in maritime, it's a little bit hard to spot them. So it's a great pleasure to put some spotlight. And thank you, Leslie, for the opportunity.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. Next, we'll move on to Crystal Pullens, President, WISTA in the Netherlands. She is also the Managing Director, Sea Ranger Service. So she has an exciting job that I think, Crystal, you're relatively new in this position.
Yes, that's true. Thanks, Leslie, and welcome to everyone today. I started working in the maritime industry 25 years ago and fell in love with it and never left. And actually, at the 1st of March this year, I started as Managing Director of the Sea Ranger Service. And the Sea Ranger Service mission is to restore 1 million hectares of ocean biodiversity by 2040. whilst training 20,000 young people towards a maritime career. And it would be fantastic if a lot of them were women. So pleased to be here today.
Oh, it's great to have you. Next, we have Ingrid Van Striels, who's a board member for WISTA Belgium. She is also the business development advisor at the Port of Antwerp. Welcome, Ingrid.
Thank you, Leslie. It's nice to be here. I'm representing WISTA Belgium in the panel today. I'm about 15 years working in the maritime industry, mainly on land, logistics, forwarding. I know everything about maritime operations, etc. I've seen growing the number of women in this industry, but we still see a lot of gray suits in the industry. So I hope to have an interesting discussion about that today.
Good. I'm sure that we will. Finally, I have Sue Turpolowski, who should be a familiar face. She was the one who introduced this project at Breakbulk Middle East earlier this year. She is the president of WISTA UK. She's the director of Imageline. She is also the co-chair, Diversity and Maritime Taskforce, Maritime UK. Welcome back, Sue. It's great to see you.
It's lovely to see you too, Leslie, and welcome everybody to this session. I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, from my point of view, diversity is something I'm really passionate about. I remember when I first started this industry 30 plus years ago and being the only person in a conference. And about 5 years ago, I sat in the conference and I was only one of 5 women in the conference. And I decided that actually talking about it had to stop, and that actually I should give something back to the industry and do something about it, which is why I got involved with the Taskforce and got Maritime UK to set up firstly the Women in Maritime Task Force, and then it went on to be the Diversity Task Force. Because what we found was that actually if you change something for women, you're changing actually the culture within a company for everybody. So it goes across the board. If you improve how you behave on a gender basis, you change the whole of the diversity of the company. So I'm passionate about increasing the number of women in our industry. What I want to see is there's been some fantastic initiatives, lots of great talking. We now need to take that exponential jump to make a change. And that's what hopefully we're going to be doing with our projects that we're doing both for WISTA International, which is the worldwide survey, and the work we're doing with the EU on looking at women in the Europe.
Okay, great. Sue, can you tell us, let's drill down a little bit into this project and how what we're doing today will contribute and how women throughout the industry will also be able to take part.
So what we're looking for is to find out learnings. There's been some fantastic initiatives over the years, and a lot of them are deemed to have failed, but actually when you analyse it, 75% of it or more was successful, but because it didn't reach its ultimate aim at the end, it was deemed a failure. So what we want to look at is what did work, why didn't things work, and how we can change things and learn from things. The other thing we're really keen about is that actually there's not very much baseline data of why and what happens to women when they're in the industry. So we've been looking at things like maritime colleges. What is the intake? How many of those actually complete the course? And how many of those then go on to foster a career? And I know Krista and I will talk about this later on, but also it's about how many job opportunities are there really if you actually take these people and put them through the system, that they can come out the other end too. So that we talk about actually there's a shortage of women, but there's also a shortage of opportunity for those people to take up jobs in the industry. So there is a challenge to the industry to be more welcoming to these people if they want to come out through the system. So that's really what the project is looking at, is we want to make sure that we learn from anything in the past. We're really about collaboration, and that's why we're really keen to do these events. So we're really keen for people to get in contact with us. And later on, we'll put up the email address and the website address where people can join in the conversation, carry it on forward from this conference. And hopefully we can take some of those learnings to America, our next event where maybe we might all be in person.
Well, yes, we certainly hope so. Claudia, maybe you can give us an overview of the WISTA organization.
Well, WISTA is an international connection of over 50 countries. So we are combining ladies in shipping all around the world, which is fantastic in two ways, because it's not only about gender diversity, what WISTA is about, it's also about diversity of different people, starting from the very west, South Americas and North Americas, to the very east of Japan or Australia, New Zealand, and that brings, I think, a double value to for us in this, or at least for me in this organization. Not only meeting up every year with so many women that make great careers and being great role models, but also seeing that it's possible worldwide, and seeing where we have similarities and where we have different challenges in the whole talk about women in maritime.
Okay, good. So you brought up the subject of challenges. Let's talk about the barriers that women who want to enter the industry are facing, as well as those who, as all of you, have spent a number of years in the industry. What are the ongoing barriers as well? Ingrid, why don't we start with you?
Sorry, thank you, Claudia. I just saw you pointing at me. Well, the thing is, it's interesting because I talked about this with our other WISTA members in Belgium, and the point is, do we see barriers, yes or not? So I don't want to be controversial here at the first minute of the panel, but we are just looking at each other as a country saying, do we have barriers, yes or no? And our conclusion is, no, we don't see any barriers today, certainly not the last 10, 20 decennia, women in this maritime industry. But there are a few factors which are perhaps looking like a barrier for women if we want to attract new young people to this industry. One, if you look at young people at school or even children, this maritime industry is not known to them. For Belgium, we are a very small country, but we have one of the second biggest ports in Europe, which is Antwerp. And even young people in Antwerp don't know what's going on in the port and how many employment and interesting and excitement jobs it can give. We have our maritime school in the middle of the port, and only 15% of the starters at first year of the maritime school are young women. So if you have this disbalance already at the starting point, or when you want to enter any industry or making a choice for a profession, then it looks like we have a barrier. And I know on international level there are many differences, but if I speak for Belgium and perhaps for other European countries, there are no barriers, but the industry is just not attractive to women. And I think that's our opinion about it.
Okay, Crystal, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I fully agree with Ingrid, and it even starts at a younger age, I think. So when you look at what children learn in school, then if they don't see a role model in a female captain, for example, or a female pilot, or there are other professions, that have the same issue as the maritime industry, they will not consider it as an option for them. So I think it starts at a very young age, to educate them about our industry and also the possibilities for women as a career path.
Sue, is that what you've been hearing from among the women you've spoken with so far this year?
I think there's two sides. One, yes, definitely getting to the younger children. It's now actually proven that most people will start to make career choices when they're around 8. They formulate people and jobs and what roles people have. And if they don't see women in those posts and they don't see the sea at all because they are sea blind, then that really is a big issue. So one of the things we really want to concentrate is getting to that younger age group and how we can do things through influencing there. There are some barriers, but I think there's more on the other side of things is actually more the bias. People are really, we've always done it this way. We've always had men in this role. We're a bit frightened to change. We're not sure if we're going to do the right thing. So I think there is this sort of apathy of change, if you like, that why change something we've always done that we really need to challenge? Because most of us come from countries in Europe where we have fairly good employment legislation that helps keep a free society and the sort of things like that. But it's the internal barriers, so many times I've heard, but we've always employed somebody like that, so why should we change? Or, those sort of questions are things we need to be challenging.
Okay, Claudia, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I go mostly in line with what was said before. I think for me it also starts in kindergarten or even in the first years, because I think what we give to the children is how we see the world. And if it's outstanding that a woman or that a girl is good in mathematics or in physics, or if it's outstanding that a boy is good in art or in music, then we already give them a certain way. And also it's like, I don't know how it is today, but when I grew up, it was like, oh, women, like girls should behave and they should be nice and should be dressed nice. But if boys, if they toughen up a little bit, that's okay, because the life is hard and they need to toughen up a little bit. And I think it's already starting there, because then shipping is seen as a dirty, maybe a little bit dirty, a very exciting and adventurous adventurous industry. I think that's changed also a lot. We are sustainable, or we're getting to be sustainable. We are also going in the direction that you don't need muscle power to bring a container from A to B. We have machines for that. So there is a lot of digitalization in there. So it's not only the classical engineers, it's also computer science. And of course, the whole world is open for you. And I think this picture has also to change in the industry and be more into societies, because what we see is also during COVID, Maritime keeps the world running. We saw what happened when there was a stuck of a ship in a Suez Channel. Then we were all waiting for our pencils or shoes or new iPhones for weeks, and so it is a great industry. And I think the internationality and the drive to be more sustainable and to be more diverse and also to be more digital, there is a lot that you can contribute to and make a difference. And I think that is the excitement that we need to bring also outside of the maritime industry.
Absolutely. So I'm hearing a huge need for maybe almost a PR program, Sue, to do some outreach when kids are young and show them how exciting this industry, which is also so varied. Just, the four of you here all represent different sectors, different types of jobs, different requirements for your jobs. So there's a tremendous amount of variety, across maritime and across other project cargo related fields. So is certainly something that could be brought to the fore. I'm curious, we've talked about that need. What about once you're mid-career, does anyone perceive any kinds of barriers to advancement? Not necessarily for yourself, but perhaps for colleagues or women, that you've spoken with as part of the WISTA group or something like that. Ingrid, how about you?
I must admit that during my career now, which is already for 15, 16 years, I never been blocked or felt blocked by being a woman. Of course, you have to be strong because you notice that a lot of manager, directors, etc. are male. But if you get the chance to prove yourself, there should not be a barrier. However, I think it still depends a little bit on those directors to be open to it and to stand up for diversity. So it's like 50-50, I think.
Okay. Crystal, what has your experience been?
Yeah, the opposite of Ingrid's, unfortunately, because I fully agree with what she's saying. You need, and it's mostly men, who make the decision ultimately. I've experienced in my career various times that I needed someone in a decision-making role that supported my candidacy, because quite often I've ended up as being the second candidate, and then there was a male candidate, and in the end they would say, well, we've never had a woman in this role, like the CCO role, for example, or the managing director role. And we perceive it as a risk because we don't know how our customers are going to respond. We don't know how the rest of the company is going to respond. We don't know how the board is going to respond. So we have this male candidate. And actually, you're a bit better qualified, but because we see you as a risk, we just don't do it. Not yet. So my experience is that you really need someone, or preferably more people within the company, who are willing or daring to take that step. And only then, you can demonstrate that it actually works. But if you're not selected for the role, then you can also not prove that all the ideas that people had in their head about it are actually not the reality.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is sort of a catch-22, I think. Claudia, what has your experience been?
I think I can agree to Ingrid and Crystal. I know women who got also a lot of support in getting their career going, but I also hear about women that had to struggle and stand up a lot. And I think there again, I think I will stress today a little bit the social card on this, so please excuse me. But I think it is a matter also of, I think we all agree men and women are different, and that is good because that is also diversity, and that helps us to find different ways. But of course, that also means it's very easy to come to a fast conclusion if everybody thinks alike. So having somebody who is diverse coming to that group, it slows the group in the beginning. And I think that is the fright, or that is the fear that Crystal was talking about. It will become a different way of thinking. And I think that is also something that we see, that sometimes groups like big companies, they think, oh, we go for the big deal. We have a black woman, or we have an Asian woman in our white male board, and then this person should first of all represent all diversity as a minority, and second of all, one person should change a whole way of doing things as we have always done them. So that brings, of course, a lot of trouble, or can bring a lot of trouble with it, if you're not aware when you do make this change, that brings also change, obviously. And then the second thing is, coming back to men and women are different. I think, very general speaking, again, women are not that used to show, maybe not show off, but show themselves. So I think all of us know this example, reading a job position, and a man, again, sorry for stereotyping here, but a man says, I've done this, okay, heard about this, good, never heard about it, but sounds interesting. Oh, I'm the perfect candidate. You know, the women is like, oh, I did this for 10 years, but am I an expert? I never have done this. So no, I'm not qualified for the job. And of course, that is also something that makes it a little difficult, and maybe is by ourselves also a little bit of the barrier. But then the question is, do we fully need to change, or should we all go, you know, a step towards each other? Because in the end, as I stated before, we want diversity. So the solution from my point of view cannot be that women behave like men to be accepted in male positions.
Okay. Some of that sounds like an issue with confidence, or the way we view ourselves and our own sort of list of achievements or CV. So we're gonna talk about that. But Sue, I think you had some input.
Yeah, picking up on Claudia's point, there's a really good piece of work that was done by PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, where they looked at their internal graduate program, which was more or less 50-50 male-female when they came into the company. But progression through the company, the males seemed to progress greatly and the women diminished to virtually almost to zero. And they tried to find out why. And then most of it came back to exactly what Claudia said, is the males were going for jobs because they thought, well, I can do 50-60% of it and I can learn the rest on the job, and the women weren't. So they did an exercise where they got all the supervisors, if there was a female they felt should go for a position, just to go up to them and say, have you gone to the job board? Do you know this position's there? I think you should go for it. And that gave the female the confidence, because her supervisor thought she was good enough to apply. And that changed the dynamics really dramatically to almost keeping the 50-50%. So it was a very simple thing that could be done internally, but it's just thinking about it. So if you know somebody, and I did this morning, I said to somebody, I really think you should go for that job. They stopped and thought, well, maybe I should. It's something we can all take away from this, and those few words could change somebody's life and also change the figures.
That's excellent. I'm wondering, how can WISTA play a role in this kind of thing, encouraging women to have their colleagues apply for a job, to help members perhaps think in a different way, to analyze their own strengths in a more positive way. Ingrid?
Well, I think that's a role which we can play as Vista, to encourage our members, other women in the sector, to help each other. Like Sue just explained, you try to encourage each other to apply for a job, even if you feel that you are perhaps not the right person. We try to also attract students, female students, or talk to them to inspire them. We have to be or to behave like mentors. That's the role I would like to play personally. Also, when I stepped into Vista, I was amazed by the network, the international associations. I'm a member now for 2 years. I still want to go to the live conference, which is in Germany, and it was cancelled last year because I was told, if you go to the conference, you will feel the power and the network, and that's you also try to find always a role model for yourself, and I want to be inspired by other women, and I also would like to inspire others. I think we all inspire each other, and perhaps women don't do that enough when you work on your own. So that's my opinion. I think men do that more for each other than we as women do that for other women.
Okay. All right. Is anyone aware of management training specifically for women? Is that something that WISTA has, or that you've experienced in your own company? I know over the last several years, all of our training has been mixed, no distinction between male or female. But what I'm hearing from you all is that maybe that, a more formal kind of training could be useful as well. What do you think, Crystal?
Yeah, we've organized such a training for our WISTA members together with the ECWO program of the Erasmus University. I think we organized it about 1.5 years ago. And it was.
Can you tell us what ECWO stands for?
Yeah, it's the Women Research Department, I think, of the Erasmus University. Not sure exactly what the letters stand for, but they've developed a program on female leadership, and together with them, we made a bit of a shorter version of that program, and we offered it to our members. And for example, for the former president of WISTA, the Netherlands, and for her it was sort of life-changing, she said, but because after following that program, she realized that she was ready for the next step in her career, and that it was time to just stand up and go do it. And yeah, I think that's exactly what we wanted to achieve. So later on, together with the same group of that university, we've organized something around women empowering women, just a workshop with just very simple things that we can all do. Like if you have a job or you know about a project that you can award to someone, award it to a woman. And also if you speak about another woman, always speak highly, of that person, just to make sure, that we create those opportunities, like Ingrid says, and also that we all together, continuously demonstrate that there are qualified ladies out there.
Okay, Sue, what do you think about that?
Well, from WISTA UK point of view, we try to now alternate our sessions and our in-person or Zoom as they are now. So we have a structured program of self-development and help, from that being that mental health, self-awareness, all sorts of different skill sets. And the beauty of having them now on Zoom is they're all there on videos on our website. So WISTA UK has its own website, so anybody can go and then have a look, and it's just amazing how the hits have gone up over this period and which ones that people are going to have a look at. So we do see self-development being one of our roles as WISTA UK. I mean, we tend to be obviously attracting the people that are enlightened and part of our network. Really what I want to see is get to the people that don't know about WISTA. If you think about it, it's a great organisation, but we're lucky if we're penetrating 10%. So it really is looking to try and get the message out to everybody else. There are networks out there. I think that's one of the things that we should be doing, is promoting the fact there are these different networks, mixed networks as well as WISTA, but there are some great things out there, like Young Ship, SPNL and people like that. And those are the things that we should be saying, because if people realise that there are these networks and there are people that are really there to help people in the industry, we would attract the people into the industry.
Absolutely. Claudia, tell us what's going on with WISTA Germany.
Yes, thank you, Liz. Leslie, sorry. So there is, first of all, WISTA Germany has since 3 years a running mentoring program for women from women. So for our members. And also there, it was quite interesting. There was a lady. She's on pension now, but she used to be the head of a ministry for shipping, and she has a huge career in maritime. And when we asked her if she could consider to be a mentor for our program, she was like, oh, I'm not sure if I can share something and give something to somebody else, such a humble person. It was incredible. And I think that is something that worked really well for us in WISTA Germany. We are, due to COVID, the third round was mainly online. So we are stucking now a little bit and waiting, because it's also nice to meet personally, but we are definitely going on for the next round. And of course, there are always discussions also due of the membership in WISTA Germany, because at the moment it is female only. So we don't have male associates or male members. And also our mentoring program is female only. And as I said, there are always discussions, and we are always trying to be close to our members and have the discussion what they really need. But what was said before is, I think this is again unique also about WISTA, because you have all the different functions, management level, also technical expertise, but it is women only. And when you are back in your companies, you have all this, including male programs where you can look for male mentors. But how often and how many female mentors do you have in your surrounding? So I think that is also a big topic, not in terms of to exclude male members. And of course, we have also events, technical discussions and everything, where we have visitors, where we mostly welcome men, and also, of course, during the Vista International conferences, we are happy about all men that are joining us. But I think the beauty, again, coming back, what Vista can offer is that you have kind of a, I like to say, protected harbor, and that what was mentioned before by my Vista sisters is that you have this friendship and people who are there to support you and give you good feedback, and you also don't need to worry, because it's more about the support of each other than about you applying for the same job or you are, competitors. No, it's about supporting each other, having the same goal, and that makes it also kind of unique.
Okay. You bring up a lot of good points, and our next topic is what role or actions or involvement should or could men have working with women as far as becoming true allies in the workplace for female advancement. Sue, let's start with you.
I think there's a couple of ways this works. One is what I call calling it out. And it's empowering men to be able to say, I don't agree with that. I don't think that was a right comment for you to have made. And I think that's something that men now are starting to do. And I think we should be supporting them when they do it. And 2 words like thank you are very important there. Giving them the ability to do it. The women also need to acknowledge the men doing it and help them and encourage them. So I think calling it out is something that both male and female should do. But I would encourage anybody that is joining us here today that's male to have that, because we're here to support you. If you have any problems, contact a WISTA group in your country. We'll be there to help you and be an ally for you if you want to be an ally for us. So I think that's really important. And I think the other way of doing this is actually thinking about it. So, if you're invited to talk to a conference and you're a male speaker, if there's a diary clash or you don't want to do it, instead of just saying no, say, well, I can't do it, but my female colleague, I can highly recommend her. She'll be a fantastic speaker for you and she could do it. To try and greater the sort of spread of people, because a lot of the time people just don't know other people. So instead of just saying no, say, well, I can't do this or I can't attend this meeting, but my female colleague can. And therefore you're promoting them without actually doing very much. So I think there's some ways that you can just change culture and behaviour in very small ways, and those small ways make big impacts.
Okay, Ingrid, what are your thoughts on male allies?
I'm thinking, well, I've come during my career, of course, had some funny situations or awkward situations, because, it's like sometimes the men are hanging out with the boys and you are there also or I face many when people invite customers for events, how many times they go inviting customers to a football match. And I'm not interested in football at all, but I do like to meet my customer and invite them for something nice. So, but it's always the football. So there you have some strange situations which could be handled differently. So it's always like trying to convince people to do things otherwise. I also think it's about generations. Which age do you have in front of you? I think the generations now, 30, 40 years, are more open-minded than the older ones, but you also always have managers, of course, being older. I've come in one specific situation which I will never forget. I also try to use humor when I really get into a situation which I think I have to speak about. And I said to a colleague, I said, hey, listen, I don't really like much your behavior. And I told him, I knew he had a daughter. I told him, imagine that your daughter, when she starts her career and she's somewhere in an office and she's being treated by colleagues like that, and she comes home upset and she would talk about it. How would you feel about it as a father? And then it was like a huge eye opener. And he said, oh my God, I'm sorry. I mean, they just don't mean it like that, but sometimes they just forget, and it really helped. And then you have this first step to another behavior, instead of perhaps being angry or playing the drama queens, because that's the role they like to give us, that we are drama queens, etc. So you always have to try to tackle things on a creative, humoristic manner, perhaps.
That's good advice. Crystal, what do you think?
Yeah, I do agree with Ingrid that having a good sense of humor works the best. You know, so I've asked someone in my team once if he could give me the phone number of his mom, because she still had to finish off a few things in raising him properly. So that was a very effective way of addressing his behavior. You know, like this eye opener that also Ingrid spoke about. But also, you know, I read about men who no longer agree to participate in a panel discussion, for example, if it's male only, you know, and I think those are the kind of allies that we need, you know, people that say, it shouldn't be like that. And if you want this to be a male only discussion, fine, but I'm no longer part of it.
Okay, yeah. I know that we sometimes have challenges finding women on, you know, depending on a panel. The representation in some sectors just isn't there. So it's important that we get there, and I like that suggestion. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but what I was trying to say is we at WISTA in the Netherlands, we just asked all our members if they wanted to be on a list of female speakers. So if we ever get an invite and they say like we cannot find them, that we have a list ready to go, you know, with people who are experts on certain topics too.
Excellent. Well, I will be calling you, Crystal. Sue.
Yeah, so the Maritime UK website now has what we call the speaker bank, and it lists all the speakers, anybody who's willing to be a speaker, what they can speak on, and we've got some speakers on some extremely technical subjects on there, some subjects I've never even heard of in my life, and they're experts in it. So the speaker bank is free for anybody to go to, and so there's no excuses. And we're also adding now people that are willing to speak about gender and diversity and women in the sector. So the speaker bank's there, it's a free resource. And I do encourage everybody to sign up to it because it's all about it. But alongside that, what we've also running is a public speaking program where we will help people to have the confidence to speak. Because all of us know when we first went into public speaking, we were scared as hell. You know, it is a frightening thing. So it's also about empowering women. So there are a number of public speaking training courses that we're doing now online. Again, go and have a look. They are phenomenal. The speaker that the coach we've got is she's amazing, and she can get anybody to speak. So go and join the speaker bank. Enlist. If you're running any conferences, seminars, use it. And to give you an example, when the Ever Given was on, I suddenly got a phone call from the BBC who found me through the speaker bank, who asked me to go on to national television, 10 o'clock news, and talk about it.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Excellent. Good to hear.
What a success story. Claudia, did we get you on this topic?
Not yet, but in general, everything is said. Maybe I take the role of summing up a little bit here. I think what Sue said before, when you look for speakers, especially for female speakers, here again, I think we need a different approach. It's not like who would like to speak, but more like, you know, I know you can do it. I think you are the good person to do this. And that is something also what mentioned, if the allies I'm looking for, the supporters I'm looking for are also male that are saying, as Sue mentioned before, well, I can't do it, but I can ask this lady, for example, and I know that she's qualified, and just give her a little bit of a push and saying, I think you would do really great. Give it a go. And I recently, like 2 months ago, I got an email from a colleague from the studies, and he was like really proud, saying, look below, I just declined a speaker spot because it's only a male panel and I don't like that, and I just wanted to share it with you. I found that super sweet. But that is exactly what the support that we need. On the one side, of course, we need the women who stand their men, as we say, but maybe that's also something in the phrasing where we need to adopt language. But also on the other side, give them the opportunity. And I think also in summing this up, what we need as supporters are a really good leader, because a good leader, a good manager, he picks up his or her employees where they stand, and he or she will give individual support to bring the employee to the next level. And that is, of course, we have shy male and we have shy female, we have showing off male, we have showing off female. And to find the right balance, I think that is the kind of supporter pushing, pulling in the right situation. But that goes also for female leaders. So I think here we are at the same spot again.
Also picking up on that, I mean, what we've also said as WISTA in the UK is, if somebody's speaking and it's their first time or a couple of times into speaking and they want some friendly faces in the audience, we will guarantee to send some WISTA members to sit there so that they have somebody they can connect with in the audience. So it's also about the support mechanism around it.
Yeah, find your buddies and find your network, and don't be shy about that. I think that is a big problem of women, is asking for support, because we are taught, and we are taught in a way, and I heard that also a couple of times, we have to be strong, we have to speak up, so I think women of our generation are used that if you want to achieve something, you need to toughen up a little bit, you need to be strong. But that doesn't mean that you can't ask for help and support. It's not weakness to ask for that.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got a lot of good suggested actions coming out of this discussion. I'm excited about that. I think we should put our list together and post it, and share it with each other in our various groups. Really some fabulous advice. We've got 4 countries represented here today. What role does my culture play in this whole issue, in women coming to the fore and taking more leadership roles in the workplace? Do you think there's a culture component or influence?
Definitely.
Okay, Claudia, the German.
Well, I think I touched on this topic already a little bit, that it's one thing, it's in Germany, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was a thing of a status of richness if the woman could stay home, because it meant that the man would earn a lot of money and make a good life for the family. And of course, based on that, also the taxation system, the health, the children care system has been built up. So because it was a status symbol, a lot of people wanted to achieve it. So there was only little kindergarten, basically only just half a year before the school started when I grew up. Still, we have big problems in getting enough kindergarten, and especially for young children or babies, to find places where you can give your child to a qualified person and not being stigmatized as a bad mother. And we are always talking about bad mothers. We are not talking about bad fathers who go on, business trips half a year after the child was born, or stay in the office till 8 or 9. That is fine. We are talking about we call it a Rabenmutter in Germany, so a bad mother, because she is not taking good care of the children. And I just recently watched a little trash TV, and there was this, I don't know how you call it in English, but basically it's like case studies, and it was about COVID times, and that a family, the children, the grades went bad, and also the behavior of the children went bad. And then the conclusion was, oh yeah, mom and dad are both working, it's both hectic, so best thing is mom stays home and takes care of the kids, and after that everything was fine again. The kids got the attention, the grades become better. And that is just recently, like a month ago. And I think, again, this is also about role models. A funny other thing is coming. I mean, Germany has Angela Merkel as chancellor for 16 years or something. We have a quote at the moment that it's saying, I'm not sure if Germany is ready for a male Bundeskanzlerin. Which I found really funny, because of course a lot of the young the kids between 15 and 20, 21, 22, they only know Angela Merkel as the chancellor of Germany, and she has of course a good reputation. But yeah, she's one of her kind. And if you also look in international politics, there are not so many more. So I think there is a lot of culture in there as well. And I think I think it's called, Sue, help me, unconscious bias.
That's right.
Yeah, you're not aware of this, but because you were brought up in that systematic, you also don't see it as a barrier, because that's the normal playground that you're playing on.
Okay, Ingrid, have you observed any perhaps cultural influences that are different than what Claudia just spoke about?
No, not at all. I know, of course, in other countries, other culture, the barriers are much more higher. But I fully agree with Claudia. I think if we speak for ourselves here, our European culture, I think the maritime industry still lacks a little bit of flexibility. It's not a very sexy industry for young people to enter, even men, women, all the same. So, and also being a woman in this industry at some time of our career, we start a family, you have kids, and of course it's okay to be at home with your children, because you want to be with your children. If you want to be at home 1 year or 2 years or combine it, that should be 100% okay. You are not different when you have children or when you return to work. You are not of less value, if you want to speak of commercial terms. I mean, and that's something that the industry should accept. I think the pandemic has helped us a lot. The maritime industry, which I really call old school in these terms compared to other industries, is that it really helped to encourage companies and to give the faith or the confidence to work at home, because a lot of people from this industry were not allowed to work at home. And I think for women, it's even should be more flexible too. I think, and it's okay to say that if you want to be 1 day or 2 days at home for your children because one is ill, that's okay. Or if the father wants to stay at home, that's also okay. So we should well, try to be more flexible in this industry. Something that I see.
Okay. Crystal, let's turn to you. You work with Sea Ranger Service. You have a lot of young people. Do you see that their view is different than older employees, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we recruit our Sea Rangers, we do that via bootcamp. So they're with us for a year. So every year there's a new bootcamp to attract new young people that want to be trained to become a Sea Ranger. And 72% of our Sea Rangers are women. So that's very special in this industry because they're seafarers, where normally it's only 2 or maybe 3 or maximum 5%, what I've heard. So, so I think there's a lot around how you frame it. So we're investigating internally what it is that attracts them, but it's around, I think, doing something good for the oceans, but also the adventurous part. So what we spoke about earlier, maybe we should frame it also in a different way. And what I experienced on young people, like Claudia was mentioning, the mentor program, we're supporting the port program, which is a mentor program for younger people. So as WISTA, we've asked our members to become a mentor, and where WISTA Germany's program is exclusively for women, we noticed that discussing this with the port program ladies, that they said, well, but for us it's no longer really an issue. So we want men also to be mentored, and we think that's a good thing because the young men being mentored now will be the managers of the future. And when they see that it's perfectly normal to have a female boss or a female director, they will grow up in their careers with a different mindset. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Sue, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of give us a wrap up because startlingly, can't say that one, we have taken up just about our full hour. So I do want to invite everyone to head over to the roundtable session where all these 4 women will be there to continue this discussion, answer questions, get more insight. So please do that. And now I'd like to hand over to Sue to close our session.
Thanks a lot, Lizzie, and thank you to my fellow colleagues. I think that's been a fantastic debate. So I hope you do join us at the next session. As I said before, it's about collaboration, so please join us. Sorry, my voice is gone.
Well, we've been talking a lot, so we understand that. So yes, thank you all for participating in this. And I think even a more important part is that roundtable. And as Sue mentioned at the beginning, she and I'm sure the other women here today would be happy to take your input. If you're not a WISTA member and live in UK, Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany, reach out, think about joining and participating in this effort. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you very soon at the roundtable.